Hey crafty friends, it's Lisa, your DIY diva. Have you been busy looking for new craft ideas to really make your decor stand out this Christmas season? Well, if you've been searching, I think you'll really enjoy this video because I have a bunch of brand new crafts that I want to share with you just in time for your holiday decorating this year. I found these beautiful frames at Hobby Lobby, and I really do like the picture too, but more than that, I loved the frames. And they were very affordable. At 50% off of $12.99, that was a great deal. So all I have to do is take the backing off of the frames themselves, and then I can change out the image. And even though I really do like that Christmas goose, that is adorable, I had a couple of other pictures in mind that I had printed from Creative Fabrica. Now, these were the pictures that I found, and while I liked them, they weren't quite the right size. So I could go in and resize them, but instead of working harder and not smarter, I found some other images that I thought would look really pretty in these frames. And if you want to do something like this, all you have to do is take the back of the frame and hold that next to the image that you want to put into the picture frame for whatever season, or if you just wanted to change out the pictures in your frames. So I've got the picture and I'm using the back of the frame to act as a template so I can cut out the picture. And you can use regular printer paper, but I decided to use photo paper for the images that I had chosen. And while some of them did come from Creative Fabrica, I did also go to Etsy, and that is where I found this image. I think this image is so beautiful and it printed so well. So this is the image that I'm going to put in this picture frame, and it did get a little close to the edges, but I do really like how this turned out, and I could go into my program and resize it just a little bit smaller so that it would fit perfectly. Now, once I had the image cut down to fit into the frame, then all I had to do was put the image into the frame and put the backing back on. Then I just folded down the little pieces that hold the back of the frame in place. And I repeated the same steps with this picture. I love how this turned out. Sometimes when you go to Hobby Lobby or even the thrift stores and you find a really pretty frame and you think that would just look spectacular on your wall, well, here you go. Hopefully this shows you how easy you can have some custom art for your home for the holiday season. Now, I had some scrap wood in my garage and I really wanted to make some snowflake pictures. So I cut this wood down and I wanted to stain it. So I've got some gel stain that I got from Hobby Lobby, and this is in the color oak. I put a little bit of gel stain onto the wood piece, and then I used an old t-shirt. I like to use old t-shirts when I'm doing staining like this because they are lint-free. And then I just rubbed the stain onto the piece of wood. I made sure to get all four sides as well as the front of the wood. And this gel stain is really easy to work with. It's also really affordable. This 2-ounce size bottle is less than $1, which is great because there's so many things that you can do with this stain. So once I finished the first piece of wood, I just repeated the process on the second piece. Now I got these wooden snowflakes at Dollar Tree. I think it was a couple of years ago. I don't know if they have them this year, but snowflake cutouts are pretty easy to find. Now these are meant to be ornaments, so they do have a hole in the top. So I just took some Fast and Final spackling and I filled in the hole on a couple of the snowflakes. Now, once that had dried, I came back with some more stain, and I believe this is a walnut gel stain, and I didn't completely cover the snowflakes. I just added a little bit of the stain to different areas. I don't want it to look perfect. I want it to have kind of an old weathered appearance, and I thought this would make it a little bit easier. Next, I came back with a couple of different white paints. So I have some acrylic paint, which is in white, and then I also have some Dixie Belle chalk paint, which is in white. I wanted to have different shades on the snowflakes because I want to see different colors and different textures. And instead of using a paintbrush, I'm using this tool just to randomly put some of the different paints onto each of the snowflakes. And I didn't have enough texture on these, so I did come back with a little bit of texture paste and just kind of randomly dabbed texture paste on top of the snowflakes as well. Now I want to have that same chippy appearance on the backing or the scrap pieces of wood. So I'm going to come back with a little bit more acrylic paint, and I'm going to use another plastic knife, and I'm going to put some of the paint onto each of these pieces of wood. It doesn't have to be perfect. I want this to look random because I want it to look old. And once the white paint had dried, then I came back with some green folk art chalk paint and I painted that over top of the white. And I repeated that on both pieces of wood. And one thing I didn't show was I did add a little bit of gold just to add an accent to the scrap wood. And once everything was dry, then I came back with my micro sander and I just sanded away some of the paint. And while this does look aged and it has more of a rustic appearance, this wasn't exactly the look that I was going for. So I decided to come back with some burnt umber paint and just kind of add that onto the backer boards too. And I just used a chip paintbrush and just kind of dabbed it on. There wasn't really any rhyme or reason of how I was adding in this brown paint, but I did want to incorporate the sides as well. But again, it wasn't quite what I wanted, so I did come back and sand some more of it off. Then I came back with a foam brush, and with a little bit more of that green paint, I just added a little bit more green. I want these to be Christmas colors, more of a traditional Christmas color. So by having all of these different colors and then that darker, more intentional green on the top, I think I am finally happy with how the backing of the snowflakes look. And once I was finally satisfied with how this looked, then I did take a little bit of hot glue and secure a snowflake to each of those scrap pieces of wood. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to hang up these snowflake pictures or if I wanted to have them just standing like in a vignette scene. So I did go ahead and create a hanger for each of the snowflake pictures so that I can hang these up or I can just leave them out. And all I did for this was use some ribbon that I had, put a little bit of hot glue onto the back, and then I used some scrap pieces of material to secure the ribbon to the wood. And now I have two accent pieces that I can add to my decorating. Like I said, I can use these either hanging up on the wall, or I can use it as an accent for a vignette or something that I'm creating on one of my shelves. And this is one of the many reasons I like to keep scrap wood, because I can always find something to use it for in my crafting. Now I've had these two plastic pieces from Dollar Tree for a long time, and I thought it would be really pretty to make like a giant bowl. So I want these to be gold, and unfortunately I did not have any gold spray paint at the moment, but I did have this rose gold spray paint and something else that I think is more of a brass color, but I wanted to see what this would look like. So I spray painted both of these plastic pieces with the spray paint that I had just to see what these would look like. So first I used the rose gold spray paint that I had. Then I came back with this metallic brass. And while it's okay, this was not the gold that I wanted it to be. But like I always say, you never know unless you try it, right? And even by painting both of these pieces with this spray paint, at least I have a base coat color. And number one, I know what it's going to look like. And number two, when I have time to go get my gold spray paint, I'll be one step closer. So as luck would have it, I ended up going out and getting some of this Rust-Oleum metallic gold spray paint, and this is the color that I wanted. This is the gold I wanted for my Christmas decorating this year. So I've already painted the outside of the bowl. So now I'm going to paint the inside of the bowl as well. And you can definitely see the difference between that brass and rose gold as compared to the gold. I personally like the gold better for my own decorating, but you can do whatever color you want for your decorating. But look at how bright and shiny that gold is. It is just gorgeous. And even though these are Dollar Tree plastic pieces, to me they look like they're metal and not plastic. And then I found these acrylic plastic deer at Dollar Tree, and I thought these would be perfect for my project. And because I had that gold spray paint that I just bought, I went ahead and painted 2 of the deer in that gold spray paint. Now these are the plastic pieces once they're dry and ready for the next step of my project. And I'm going to secure them together. So I'm going to use a little bit of B7000, which is basically the same as E6000. And I'm going to put that on the bottom of the smaller container. This plastic bowl will be the base of my larger bowl. I did go ahead and add just a tiny bit of hot glue because I want to have that instant stick. And to make it easier, I put the larger piece, the punch bowl, face down. And then I attached the base. Now, all of these pine pieces that are surrounding my large pool noodle, this is what's going to go into that large bowl. So I cut off a piece of the pool noodle so that I can secure it into that bowl. And I did cut the pool noodle so that it's just a little bit shorter than the top edge of the punch bowl. Next, I came back with a little bit of B7000 and put that onto the pool noodle. And then I used a little bit of hot glue for the instant stick. And then I flipped over the pool noodle and secured it to the center bottom of the punch bowl. So now what I'm going to do is take all of these pine stems and I'm going to put them into the bowl. And I want it to look like the pine is overflowing the edges of the bowl. So I started by pushing in those stems into the pool noodle itself. And they're just resting on the edges of the bowl. Now, I've seen a lot of other people use the great big pine stems that just kind of flow. Well, those were a little bit expensive for this project, so these are the cheaper version. I think they're only like 12 inches long, but because they're a lot more affordable, I was able to buy a lot of them so that I could completely fill the pool noodle and have this look like it's one of those overflowing fancy pine bowls. And once I got to the very top of the pool noodle, I did just take some of the pine pieces and just push them down into that open area of the pool noodle. It makes it pretty easy when you get to the top. Now I want to create a riser for this large bowl. And I had a couple of books that I got from Dollar Tree, but I want them to have a nice neutral look. So I'm going to use some folk art acrylic paint, but I want it to have a more satin appearance and not so matte. So I am going to add in a little bit of glossy Mod Podge. And then I'm just going to take the paint and I'm going to paint the book. Now, I'm not sure how some people would feel about painting the book, but I just painted the book cover. I did go in and paint along the spine and on the inside where the book cover is as well, because I don't want any of that blue, like for this book, to show through. And it did take 2 coats of paint to completely cover the book. So I have 2 books that I got from Dollar Tree and I'm covering both of them with this paint. And the best part about this is it didn't hurt the book itself. So the pages didn't get painted down. I can still open up the book, but I love how this looks. And these books make a really great riser for this planter. And I really wanted to put this onto a round platter, but I didn't have anything large enough. But I think this platter works just fine. And believe it or not, I got this at Home Goods and it was like $10. But this was the look that I wanted with the books, with the planter, with the pine, and I love the deer right in the front. I think they look so pretty. The reindeer seem to be pretty big this year for decorating, and I'm just really happy that I can find these at Dollar Tree. This is a fall sign that I got from Dollar Tree, and I just painted the sign black. I wanted to keep the top and the bottom that wood color, but everything else got a coat of black chalk paint. Then I came back with some matte Mod Podge. But what I want to do is turn this into a Christmas sign. And I'm putting the matte Mod Podge on because I want to decoupage a bag, a Christmas gift bag, onto this sign. So I'm just doing a pretty heavy coat of Mod Podge all over the black portion of the sign. And while that was drying, I came back with some white chalk paint, and using a chip brush, I did a light coat of white paint on the top and the bottom. So the pieces that look like they're stained, I lightly brushed the white chalk paint over top. Next, I came back with this bag, and I got this bag at Walmart. I think this is so pretty, and the only thing I was a little concerned with is where the Christmas tree is, it's got a little bit of a raised area. So I was like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work, but hey, let's give it a try and see what happens. Then I came back with my Cricut cutter. This is a really nice tool for getting straight lines. I used the Cricut cutter to get straight lines so I can put that bag onto my prepared sign. And when I had the image the size that I wanted it to be, then I covered it with a Teflon sheet, and I used my mini heat press to secure the bag to the sign. This is one way that you can do decoupage without worrying that you're going to get wrinkles in your paper. In the past, when I've tried to decoupage, what seems to happen is I get wrinkles. No matter what I do, I always get wrinkles. But by putting the Mod Podge on first, letting it dry, and then reactivating it with the heat, there are never any wrinkles. That's why this is by far my favorite way to decoupage an image onto a piece of wood or something like this. So I just run the heat press over it for a little bit, and now the bag is secured to the sign. And once the sign had cooled down, then I came back with my micro sander and I just sanded away all of the excess image from each side of the sign. And while it's pretty like that, I did want to add something extra. So I have lots of extra pine pieces. So I used a little bit of hot glue, and I took those extra pine pieces and I secured them to the bottom edge as well as the top of the sign. I like to add little faux greenery pieces one at a time. Yes, it does take a little bit longer, but I think the results speak for themselves. I think you get a much better look than if I were to take the entire stem and attach that to my project. This way, I'm more deliberate, I have more control, and this is a great way to use up all of those extra pieces that I know you have in your craft room. And once I had enough pine on the bottom, I did come back with some tiny pine cones and added those right into the center. It looks like they're right under the Christmas tree. And I added in a few glittery pine pieces too. I think that looks really nice. And I wanted my sign to have a bow, but I wanted it to be rustic. So I came back with some really tiny raffia pieces and I secured those to the top, and you can see my bow off to the side. Then I took a little more hot glue and put the bow on top of the pieces of raffia. It just gives a few extra tails to my bow, and I love how that turned out. This is probably one of my favorite projects that I've made. I know I say that in every video, but this one was fantastic. It was so easy to do, and I think it looks great. And I think this shows you there are so many other things that you can do with those Christmas gift bags instead of just putting a present into them. I get really excited at Christmas time because I'm always wondering what kind of gift bags I'm going to get. So then I'm thinking, ooh, I could use that in an upcoming project. Now, I can always find these little boxes at Dollar Tree. They always seem to have them. And of course, they're great for so many different crafts. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off by painting this wood box white. So I have some Dixie Belle white chalk paint, and I'm going to paint the back and all four sides of this box with that chalk paint. And I'm sure you've seen Patti J Good and the crafts that she makes. Well, in one of her more recent videos, she shared an SVG, and I love the style of these letters, so I downloaded the SVG, and I will leave a link to her video down below in case you want to get these for yourself. But instead of cutting out the letters with vinyl, I used my laser to cut out wood. so that I can put these onto a sign. Well, it's going to be 2 signs actually. So I'm going to start off by painting the smaller 25 or 2 and 5. Those are going to be red. It did take several coats of this paint. This is just birch wood that I had cut out, and I let the paint fully dry before putting on another layer of paint. Then for the larger numbers, I'm going to use black acrylic paint. And while my numbers were drying, I had another piece of scrap wood. Yes, I love scrap wood from my garage. And I had stained that with a walnut stain. Then I came back with a foam brush and that Dixie Belle chalk paint. And I just lightly brushed the chalk paint over top of the stained piece of wood. And I didn't want the numbers to be perfect. So I did come back with a little bit of the white chalk paint and I put that on the black numbers. When I applied the chalk paint to the numbers, I had it go side to side. I don't know if it'll make a difference, but I thought it might stand out a little bit better. And on the smaller numbers, the 2 and the 5, it isn't going to matter which direction my highlights are going because my background is just white. But again, I wanted the numbers to have a little bit of an aged appearance. And I'm going to use some B7000 and I'm going to secure the letters to the corner of my sign. And I'm putting mine on the bottom corner of this sign. So if it were cut into quarters, it's almost just in that bottom quarter. Next, I came back with some plaid Christmas ribbon and I used some hot glue to secure it from the top to the bottom. And I repeated that step with another piece of the ribbon going from side to side, making it look like a ribbon on a Christmas package. Then using that same ribbon, I made a small bow. And I did make tails for my bow separately, so I secured each of the tails to the ribbon that's already on my sign, and then I secured the bow right on top. I came back with a little bit more greenery and I just tucked that down underneath the bow. And there's my 25 box for December 25th. Now for the larger numbers, I'm not going to put any extras. I just want the 25 right in the center. So I used a little bit of B7000 to secure each of the numbers in place. If you don't have the B7000 or E6000, you could use hot glue as well. I just like this type of adhesive because it allows me to move the wood pieces around to make sure I get them placed where I want them to be. Whereas with the hot glue, if I put that on the back and I put the numbers down, they are stuck. I did come back with a little bit of distressing ink and use that right around the edges of this piece of wood or my now sign. These were so much fun to make. They were super easy to do, and I think they are so much fun. I've always wanted to have something like this to add to my decor, and this year I finally did it, and it was so affordable. Now, another craft that I've always wanted to have in my decor is a snowman picture. And I've seen people do these before and they are so cute and they are so easy. So I want to show you how you can have a little snowman sign for your Christmas decorating. So I already had one coat of this dark navy paint on another one of those Dollar Tree wooden boxes. But like a lot of the acrylic painting that I do, I added in a little bit of Mod Podge, the glossy Mod Podge, because it gives it more of a satin finish instead of the matte finish. So I just repainted everything on this sign with the navy blue paint. And while that was drying, I came back with some wood pieces that I had cut out. One was a half of a circle, and then I had 3 stars, and then I had a very small triangle. So I'm pretty sure you can guess the half circle, that's going to be my snowman. So I used some white Dixie Belle paint, and I painted the half circle white. I also painted the stars white because I'm going to paint them yellow, but the wood really absorbs the yellow paint, so the white is acting like a primer. Then I came back and painted my triangle orange. Now, while that was drying, I did come back with a Dollar Tree canvas. This is a 4" by 4" canvas that actually comes with its own easel. And I'm going to see if I can paint the snowman myself. So I just painted a half circle on the bottom. Then I came back and did a little bit of splatter painting on both of my blue canvases. This is going to make it look like stars. Next, I did the yellow paint on the wooden stars. Those are going to be for my larger sign. And because I didn't have any stars for the smaller sign, I did just freehand them. And I don't think I'm a very good artist when it comes to freehanding stars. I don't know why I have such a hard time painting stars, but I had a really difficult time. But I think you get the idea. There are 3 yellow stars that are kind of rounded out on the top portion of the canvas. Then I came back and added in an orange triangle for my snowman's nose. And while the little canvas was drying, I started working on the bigger snowman picture. So I took my B7000 and put that on the back of the snowman and secured it to the bottom portion of the sign. And then I attached the orange triangle to the top center of the circle. Then I put a little bit of the glue on the back of each of those yellow stars and I secured them to my sign. So now I just have to paint the face of my snowman. So I used a dot tool and I put little black dots onto the circle. These are the snowman's eyes. I did the larger sign and then I did the smaller canvas that I had painted. I wanted this to look like the snowman is looking up at the stars. Next, I came back with a black acrylic paint marker and I drew a mouth on each of my snowmen. And I wanted it to look like the snowmen were smiling, so I just drew little lines, I guess like laugh lines, on either end of the snowman's smiles. And that's it. Now I have these 2 adorable snowman signs that I've created for my Christmas decorating. These are so cute and they were really easy to make. And I hope that I showed you, you really don't have to be a talented painter. You can make this work and it was really easy and these are just way too cute. And I can't believe it, but we have reached the end of the video. And I really hope that you enjoyed crafting with me today. And if these projects and this video inspired you, make sure you hit that subscribe button because I post new budget-friendly projects each and every week. And I don't want you to miss out on a single way to transform your home this holiday season. Remember, crafting isn't about how much money you spend. It's about the love and creativity that you put into each and every project. And until next time, stay crafty and keep creating.